Alright, settle in, because what you're about to read isn't just a synopsis, it's a plunge into the heart of Emmerdale, a pre-screening of tomorrow's raw, pulsating drama, crafted with the precision of a master storyteller and the visual flair of a visionary director. Prepare for a ride that will leave you breathless, questioning, and desperate for the next installment. This isn't just an episode, it's a seismic event, a tempest brewing in the usually quaint tales, ready to unleash a torrent of revelations and consequences that will redefine everything we thought we knew. The dawn of Thursday, September 18, 2025, broke over Emmerdale not with its usual gentle caress, but with a chilling, almost predatory whisper carried on the wind. A fragile, unsettling quiet hung heavy in the air, a deceptive calm before the storm that was already gathering its formidable strength. The previous day's revelation, Aaron's muddled, yet terrifying utterance of John has got Mackenzie had torn through the fabric of normalcy, leaving Ches, Paddy, and Liam reeling in a vortex of fear, confusion, and a burgeoning, icy dread. This wasn't just a misunderstanding, this was the chilling preamble to a nightmare, an unseen menace coiling its way around the heart of their beloved village. The sterile, antiseptic scent of the hospital room, usually a harbinger of healing, now felt like a shroud. Ches, her face etched with a tapestry of raw emotion, fear, fury, and a terrifying sliver of self-blame paced like a caged lioness. "John has got Mackenzie," she repeated, the words a venomous echo in the quiet room. "What did he mean, Paddy? Got him? Is he hurt? Is he even alive?" Her voice was a ragged whisper, teetering on the edge of a scream that threatened to tear her throat. Paddy, usually the anchor of reason, felt the ground crumbling beneath his feet. His medical training, his years of rational thought, were no match for the primal terror gripping Charles. He tried to project a calm he didn't feel, his hand gently grasping her shaking arm. "Ches," he was disoriented. Confused. "We don't know for sure what he meant." But even as he spoke, the words tasted like ash. The image of John, slumped and secretive, requesting water from Victoria, then abruptly discharging himself, flashed in his mind. Why the rush? Why disappear? Liam, ever the pragmatic one, his doctor's composure struggling against the rising tide of alarm, already had his phone pressed to his ear, his voice clipped and urgent as he spoke to hospital security. "Yes, John McGregor. Discharged himself earlier today. Any sightings? CCTV? We need to know where he went, immediately." The answer on the other end was a cold splash of reality. John had vanished without a trace, a ghost in the hospital corridors, leaving behind only the unsettling echo of Aaron's words. "We have to find him," Chaz declared, her eyes burning with a fierce, unwavering determination. Before anything else happens." But an insidious seed of doubt had begun to sprout in Victoria's mind, nurtured by the relentless torment of the past few days. What if Robert was right? She whispered, her voice barely audible, but carrying the weight of 1,000 fears. About John? About everything? Paddy and Chaz exchanged a startled glance. The sheer audacity of the thought, that Robert, the architect of so much pain, could have been the one speaking the truth, was almost unbearable. Yet, the chilling synchronicity of John's sudden disappearance and Aaron's terrifying accusation painted a picture too dark to ignore. "We need to find John," Chaz reiterated, a new urgency in her voice. "And we need to know what he meant by Mackenzie." But as they prepared to launch their frantic search, a chilling discovery awaited them. Hospital staff, retracing John's steps, found a discarded, blood-stained handkerchief in a remote stairwell. Not just any blood, but a small, distinct embroidery on the corner, a stylized M. The M for Mackenzie. The discovery sent a shockwave through the group, solidifying their worst fears and transforming a frantic search into a desperate rescue mission. The air crackled with unspoken terror. The game had just turned deadly. Meanwhile, across the village, the veneer of newlywed bliss for Gabby and Vinny was peeling away, revealing a festering wound beneath. The morning light, filtering through the windows of their cottage, did little to soften the harsh lines of Gabby's stress-worn face. Her argument with Bernice the previous day, though rooted in the past, had unearthed a raw, painful truth. Her drunken indiscretion in Portugal with Jorge. The secret, like a toxic bloom, was now poisoning her present. Vinny, ever the loyal and hopeful husband, entered the kitchen, a tentative smile on his face. "Morning, Mrs. Dingle," he chirped, trying to inject some levity into the tense atmosphere. He held out a mug of tea. "Thought you might need this. Big day, remember? Interview at the depot." He tried to project optimism, a belief that their financial woes, their mounting debt, would soon be a thing of the past. "Caleb seems keen. This could be our fresh start, Gab." But Gabby merely stared into her tea, the steam blurring her vision, much like the fear blurring her future. "A fresh start?" she scoffed, a bitter laugh escaping her lips. "How can it be a fresh start when I'm living a lie?" The words hung heavy in the air, unexpected, accusatory. Vinny's smile faltered. "What are you talking about, Gab?" His brow furrowed with concern, a flicker of apprehension in his gentle eyes. And then, like a dam breaking, it all came pouring out. The pina coladas, the limbo competition Bernice had entered her into, the intoxicating allure of a handsome stranger in Lagos. The details, sparse and disjointed, painted a devastating picture. Gabby, tears streaming down her face, confessed everything. I slept with someone else, Vinny. In Portugal. It was a stupid, drunken mistake, I swear. I was stressed about the wedding, Mum was in my head about us. But it happened. His name was Jorge." The words struck Vinny like a physical blow. His face, usually so open and kind, contorted in a mixture of shock, betrayal, and profound hurt. The mug clattered from his hand, the hot tea splashing across the floor, mirroring the sudden, scalding pain in his heart. You what?" His voice was barely a whisper, a strangled sound of disbelief. "You slept with someone else? On our honeymoon? And you waited until now to tell me?" The pain in his voice was palpable, a raw, exposed nerve. Gabby reached out, desperate to console him, to explain, but Vinny recoiled as if burned. "No. Don't touch me." His eyes, usually so soft, were now hard, filled with a searing, betrayed anger. "All this talk about our stable marriage, our normal life, and you were doing this behind my back? With a stranger? The day after we got married, you cheated on me?" His voice rose with each word, the anger finally breaking free. The argument escalated, their voices tearing through the fragile peace of the cottage. Plates were smashed, words exchanged that would forever scar their nascent marriage. "It was one stupid mistake," Gabby cried, clinging to any justification. "I was vulnerable. Mum put ideas in my head." "Don't you dare blame your mother," Vinny roared, his gentle nature completely eclipsed by his fury. "This is your mistake, Gabby. Your choice. I thought we had something real. I thought we were building a future. And you threw it away for some holiday fling." He stared at her, his eyes cold and distant. "I don't even know who you are anymore." As the argument reached its fever pitch, a sudden knock on the door silenced them. It was Bernice, brimming with a self-satisfied, mischievous grin. "Morning, lovebirds. Just checking in on my favorite newlyweds. And to see if you're still blaming me for all your woes, Gabby darling." Her smile faltered as she took in the scene, the shattered mug, Gabby's tear-streaked face, Vinny's rigid posture and icy glare. The air was thick with unspoken tension, a palpable sense of devastation. Bernice, for once, was speechless, sensing she had walked into a catastrophe far grander than any of her usual dramas. The timing couldn't have been worse, her casual intrusion had just stumbled into the explosive fallout of Gabby's confession. The question now wasn't if their marriage would survive, but if it had ever truly begun. Meanwhile, in a desolate, forgotten corner of the Dales, where the ancient trees stood like silent sentinels, a grim tableau was unfolding. John McGregor, his face pale and contorted with a mixture of pain and desperate resolve, leaned heavily against the moss-covered trunk of a gnarled oak. Beside him, slumped against the earth, was Mackenzie. He was unconscious, a nasty gash bleeding freely from his temple, his hands bound roughly with thick twine. A discarded, blood-stained rock lay nearby, a silent testament to the struggle. John, his breath coming in ragged gasps, fumbled in his pocket, pulling out a small, worn photograph. It was of a young woman, vibrant and smiling, her eyes strikingly similar to his own. He gazed at it, a profound sorrow washing over his features. "I'm so sorry, Leah," he whispered, his voice hoarse with emotion. "I never wanted this. But he took everything from us. He has to pay." His gaze shifted to Mackenzie, a flicker of something akin to pity, then hardened into steely determination. "You see, Mackenzie, the world thinks I'm a madman. A monster. They don't know the truth. They don't know what you did. What he did." A single, bitter tear tracked a path down his dirt-smudged cheek. The previous day, John had indeed visited Robert in prison, but not for peace talks. He had gone there for answers, for confirmation of a dark suspicion that had been festering in his mind for months. Robert, cunning and manipulative as ever, had spun a web of half-truths and insidious suggestions, painting Mackenzie as the true puppet master, the one who had driven John to the edge, the one who had orchestrated the events that led to John's current predicament. Robert, with a chilling smile, had even alluded to Mackenzie's past transgressions, his ruthless streak, his capacity for dark deeds. "Mackenzie," Robert had sneered, "he's always played a dangerous game, John. Don't be surprised if he's the one truly pulling the strings, leaving you to take the fall. He's good at making people disappear. Or wish they had." The words had burrowed deep into John's already fragile psyche, igniting a spark of paranoia that quickly consumed him. Fueled by a cocktail of grief, confusion, and Robert's poisonous whispers, John's twisted logic had led him to one conclusion. Mackenzie was the real culprit, the silent architect of his suffering, the one who needed to be brought to justice, John's justice. He had seen Mackenzie lurking near the hospital, and a cold fury had seized him. The chase had been brief, brutal, culminating in this hidden clearing. As John recounted his warped version of events, a groan escaped Mackenzie's lips. His eyes fluttered open, hazy with pain and confusion. He saw John, wild-eyed and desperate, and the immediate, primal fear etched itself onto his face. "John. What? What have you done?" he croaked, his voice raw. "Done?" John laughed, a brittle, unhinged sound that echoed through the trees. "I've brought you here, Mackenzie. To confess. To tell me everything. To tell me about Leah." Mackenzie stared at him, bewildered, the name Leah a phantom in his memory. He tried to piece together what was happening, his head throbbing. He had simply been going for a walk, trying to clear his head after a tense conversation with Kane about some shady dealings. He had seen John, looking distraught, and had stopped to ask if he was okay. The next thing he knew, a searing pain, then darkness. John, misinterpreting Mackenzie's silence as defiance, tightened the ropes around his wrists. "Don't play dumb with me. Robert told me everything. How you manipulated me, how you used me, how you were responsible for Leah." He pulled out a worn, yellowed newspaper clipping from his pocket, its headline screaming about a fatal car accident years ago. "He told me you were involved. That you covered it up." Mackenzie, his mind slowly clearing, saw the article, and a cold dread washed over him. He remembered the accident, years ago, a distant memory of a girl he barely knew, a tragic bystander in a petty rivalry that had spiraled out of control. But he wasn't involved in her death. He knew who was. Robert. Robert had used him, yes, but not in the way John imagined. Robert had implicated him to cover his own tracks. "John, no, you've got it all wrong," Mackenzie pleaded, his voice gaining a desperate urgency. Robert lied to you. He's twisting things. I didn't kill anyone. Robert did. He was driving that night. He paid me to keep quiet, to help him hide the car." John froze, his eyes wide with a terrifying mix of disbelief and dawning horror. The newspaper clipping, the photograph of Leah, fluttered from his trembling hand. Could Robert, the very person he had sought for truth, have manipulated him so cruelly? The seeds of doubt, once planted by Robert, were now flourishing, but in a way Robert could never have intended, turning back on their source with a vengeance. Just as this shocking revelation hung heavy in the air, a twig snapped in the distance. John's head snapped up, eyes darting, walled with paranoia. He grabbed a heavy branch, his grip white-knuckled. "Who's there?" he snarled, fear and madness battling for dominance in his eyes. It was Kane Dingle, his face a mask of grim determination. He had been alerted by Caleb that John had been seen heading this way, and a gut feeling had told him something was deeply wrong. He saw the scene before him. John, wielding a makeshift weapon, Mackenzie bound and injured. His eyes narrowed, instantly assessing the danger. "John. What the hell are you doing?" Kane's voice was a low growl, laced with a barely controlled menace. John's gaze darted between Kane and Mackenzie, his mind a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. The truth about Robert's treachery, the weight of his own actions, the sudden presence of Kane, it was all too much. He lunged, not at Kane, but at a terrified Mackenzie, a desperate, final attempt to silence the one man who could expose the full extent of Robert's insidious manipulation. Kane reacted with lightning speed, tackling John just as the branch swung down, narrowly missing Mackenzie's head. A violent struggle ensued, a chaotic ballet of raw power and desperate fury. The silence of the dales was shattered by grunts, shouts, and the sickening thud of bodies hitting the earth. This wasn't just a rescue, it was a desperate battle for truth, for vengeance, and for survival, all ignited by the poisonous lies of a master manipulator. The stakes had never been higher. Back in the Dingle cottage, the air was still thick with the acrid scent of broken trust. Bernice, usually so self-assured, stood frozen, her usually vivacious face pale with shock. The weight of her past comments, her casual meddling in Gabby's relationship, now settled heavily upon her, morphing into a bitter, undeniable regret.